Bank holiday Monday. And we're in the unit. Yeah, I managed to escape for a couple of hours. So what have I been doing? Well, fitted the rear lights. One issue that I have with the light on this side, largely because this is an earlier corner piece. That's a later corner piece. They've got different profiles at the top. You can see a very different profile there. The later lights have this little device, which sits pretty much there. And unless you cut a slot out of that, you can't get the light unit to fit. I didn't need it, so I put the reciprocating saw on it and cut it off. As far as all of the other bits and bobs are concerned, so all of the screw fixings and so forth are all exactly the same, so everything fits in there. And the advantage of these light units is we get fog light built in, and they're less shitty than the ones that the customer provided me for the early style. Right, the observant amongst you will notice that the tailgate prop has been removed. 3 of the 4 screws came out of the tailgate hinges, which I'm impressed with. Clearly tailgate glass wants to live. I've got an aluminium kit that I'm going to put onto this. Need to sort the handle out, and I need some more catches. So that's been all of that. Seats are back in because pretty much everything on the floor now is ready for it to bolt up. Now, the only thing I haven't done with the floor yet is sort out the rubber. Now, the rubber, the lip that goes, if I open this, there's a rubber, so the rubber goes along here, and then there's a return edge that slots into this edge of the tailgate. You can see this is a later tailgate. It's a bit of an anomaly, this one, because it's all of the suggestions on this thing, apart from that edge there, are that it's an internal handle tailgate, yet it's very clearly got an external handle. I don't know. Going to adjust the hinges for it. But again, there's some levels of compatibility that go between the two. So with this rubber that goes down here, they always break along this edge here. So all I've done, this is just gluing at the moment, nice thin sheet of rubber. You could probably cut an inner tube open if you really must, and then bonded it on, and I'm using some fairly heavy duty contact adhesive. So this stuff, nice. Yeah, just be careful of it though. Wear gloves, etc, 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 etc. Do as I say, not as I do. And then once I've got this fitted, then I can put the square plates on the corners here to prevent the ingress of any exhaust gases. And then the tailgate rubber is a brand new one that I fitted the famous 4 supply. The one that I've used in the past from Britpart, I think it is, I found to be too tough. That didn't fucking close. Right, did that time. I've been too tough. And then you can't close the top tailgate, which is not particularly helpful. But, yes, we lurch forwards. Right, I'm going to go home and have a beer now because it is 4:30 on a bank holiday Monday and the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. So I'm going to go home and do some odds and sods back there. Just in case you're interested, look out here. Not the animal. I can see the trees. Yeah, it's all gone. So they're digging up the base. All the base is going to go. They're going to level the entire site. A fence is going to go down the side of the road here. And then Deep Logistics, Deep Scaffolding Company are going to take over pretty much the whole site. Be nice. Look at that. Richard Hudson. The delight for me is that ultimately, once the road is sorted out and the surface has been levelled over there, we should be significantly free of dust, which I can't wait. Can't wait. Right. Beer, I think. Oh, while I was putting the seats in, I found the big lumps that I wanted to. Not those two. We're talking big lumps. of, that's the tailgate. Where'd I put them? There they are. Let me just it's not open nicely. These bits here. So I just figured that the customer might like just to hang on to some newspaper and filler, which was pretty much where this car came from. Right, I'm underneath the beast at the moment because I'm just getting ready to put this boot floor in. Now there's a couple of things I'm going to do to prepare this, but I thought I'd come under here and just show you this. Seatbelt mounts are pop riveted onto the underside of the floor, but if you're not careful, the mounting point won't line up with that, with the hole on the chassis. So before you put everything into place, get under here, lift each side up, drop it into the hole. Now, let me just get out from under here. Oh. I know 4-post lift, there'll be 18 fucking comments about 4-post lifts. Look, I haven't got the room for a 4-post lift. And also, I can do without it for the time being. Now, obviously everything's lined up. I've positioned the repaired rear rubber seal roughly into position. And I've got the rubber seal for the leading edge. What I'm planning on doing really, so we just lift this out. It's not going to come out now because I just dropped those seatbelt mounts in. Oh! Out. Now I can pull the seat, pull the floor out. I don't need to pull it right out. Sikaflex, that's no good, Richard. Right, the two cross members are bolted into position. Okay, now what I'm actually planning on doing here is putting a rubber strip along the top of this. Spray some wax on there. Whatever the kind of the stuff that I would generally use, which is, my brain has gone completely flipping blank. And the liquid's been taken up as well. Oh, for heaven's sake, Rich. Oh, there we are. Diagnose. So I'll give that a spray on the top of the metal rail, put a sheet of rubber across the top of it, lay the floor back over the top of that. As far as the edges are concerned here, this has all been painted in a fairly heavy duty kind of paint, epoxy paint. But again, I'm inclined to use either a brushable seam sealer, just to seal against moisture. You'll note that I'm not going to be using silicone bathroom sealant. There are folk out there that swear by the fucking stuff. Me, I swear at it. The alternative is I use something like that, which is just a same kind of thing. It's a PU sealant, high quality PU sealant for sealant in a bond, or the seam sealer, brushable seam sealer. And then the only other thing I've done is I've been round and pre-punched a whole world of holes. Okay, and I use my hole punch, which comes as part of my joddler. So if I go to this chap here, which is my joddler, comes with a hole punch on the other side of it. Very bloody useful, although I had to widen the jaws out by about 0.5 millimetre so it would actually fit onto the panel. So I've been right the way around the edge and punched a lot of holes. So really, next, I'm going to put this bastard on. Let's get this riveted in, I think. Therefore, yes, absolutely. Right, I don't need to video it because it's just boring. But I've given you the basic overall techniques for what it is I'm going to do here. Yeah. Once that's in, then I can lay in the floor, you see. And I can do the channel on the side window, and I'll show you how I do that. Nice. Still need to tuck the flap underneath here, but you can see how that's going to work. Put all of the filler strips in on the sidey slideys. I hate this job. This slidey rubber has broken on the bottom edge, but it's on the fixed window side of things. So once all the silicone has been wiped away, might need a bit of panel wipe on that, then I will bond that in place. A bit of Sikaflex or something. Floor is in. Back seat next. And then engine. Right, going through some of the electrical anomalies on this, bearing in mind I've never seen this loom working. As you've seen in earlier videos, I've managed to get the front half of the loom working, but now I've connected up the rear half of the loom. And on these two doors, splendidly easy. So, if it does not open nicely, we get Torchy McTorchface, and we turn Torchy McTorchface on and position him up here. Open the glove box, you'll see connectors. And these connectors here are for the rear loom, which runs along the roof on the left-hand side of the vehicle. So the only additions I've made in here, let's pop Torchy McTorchface there. I have taken a wire which runs through the bulkhead, and that goes directly to the ignition coil. And I've taken a fuse, which then runs via this wire, connected into a standard white wire, which I've spliced, and that then runs along the transmission tunnel through the bulkhead to the pump. Now, when you are testing this lot, the best thing to do is to be sure that you're not going to be popping fuses left, right and centre. So things like that, just make sure they're isolated, okay? They're the only real loose wires in here. I've got all of the door courtesy switches and so forth, they're all in. But what I really want to do here is go through and test these rear light units. So I did have to further modify the light housing. On this setup here, for some reason, when these go into the early rear light housings, this piece here is the wrong shape. So I had to get in there with a belt sander on this one and recreate this kind of profile in order that this fit in tidily. And as you can see, it does. So Mr. Belt Sander comes to the rescue. Now, we'll start with the very, very, very basic of tests. Lights. Well, we've got front lights on, I can see them. Back lights. Oh, I can see one reflecting off L95 there. Yeah, all looking good. I just lobbed an LED light there. These are number plate lights, obviously latest style number plate lights. I spoke to the customer. I'm probably going to go for this style of number plate light at the back end because they're available. But yes, they're working. Do the hazards work? Now, there's no flasher unit yet for the hazards because that just complicates things. So let us just pull out. Oh, God help us if we can. Two hands? Two hands. There we are. Oh, that's encouraging. So they're lighting up. That's lit up. And those two have lit up. Well, that's good. So indicators are working. Side lights are working. Let's push the hazards home again. Just a quick walk around. Check they're all working. Yep. You remember I wired in the halo to the side light. Makes it a bit more visible, doesn't it? Yep, so all indicators are working. I've not yet connected the ignition coil. So when I turn the ignition on, I'm not going to be energising the ignition circuit. And the reason for that is, while I'm faffing around with the other electrics, I really don't want to be burning out an electric coil. Keys next. Right, so because I can't press the brake pedal and run to the back of the car really quickly, what I've basically done is just taken the brake switch 8, ignition on. Right, there's no feedback at all from the brake warning light, nor the low fuel warning light, which is a disappointment. Right, should have brake lights on though. So lights are off, and we have got brake lights on. And if I leave you, let's put fly mode out here. Can you see? You can. Right, so I'm going to push the brake plunger in, and the brake light should go off. So it should be off and on, and off and on, and off and on. Did that work? I hope it did. Which means then that the switch is good. I can put that back in. Right, other things I wanted to check. What I'll do for now is I'll just disconnect one of the wires here from the brake light. Otherwise I'm just going to leave the brake lights on all the time, and I don't want to burn them out. So switch can go there. Ignition on now, and we should have no brake lights. No lights at the back. No. Right, let's do indicators next. Well, I can see indicators on already and it's not working. So we need to diagnose that, don't we? No indicators. Right. So indicators aren't working. What about reverse? Now I know reverse isn't working actually purely because there's no power to the green wire, which I discovered yesterday. Then thought, oh, bollocks to it. It was 7 o'clock. I'm going home. So what do? Well, we engage the services of Mr. Powerprobe. Now you can do this a lot cheaper. You can do this with a multimeter. You can do this with a bulb and a bit of wire. Powerprobe though I love, so let me get him set up and I'll show you why I love Powerprobe. This is not sponsored, by the way. This is something that I bought. So Powerprobe connects up 2 leads. One goes directly to the positive terminal on the battery, one goes to an earth point. You can go to the earth on the battery if you wanted to, and you can have then your isolated 12 volt supply. What's nice though about Mr. Powerprobe is that he just sits in your hand like this. It's got lights on the end of it, and he tells you everything that's going on. So if, for instance, I touch that, it tells me it's got consistency to earth. Okay? It's also got a little fused relay with jobby in here. So if I do short something out, then that will basically come together. If I'm going to have to get the tripod for some of this stuff, I'm afraid. So if I turn the ignition on, and I wanted to find out which of these was the live feed. There we are. I've got 12.2 volts off that one. Can we silence the noise? Probably. There we are. So we've got 12.2 volts off that one, and that one then goes to the brake lights. Now, at this point, if I was to shoot 12 volts up this, the brake lights would go on. Beautiful, huh? So, with that in mind, what I now need to do is to work out what's going on with this circuit. Now, that's probably not very helpful. That connector's not really plugged together, is it? But we know that the indicators are working. So we know that the hazard lights are working. There are some funny connectors down here. What is going on? Oh, that's just, I've joined that together. Look at that. That's just my jump cable. So I need to identify what is going on here. There's an earth wire there by the looks of things. Identify what's going on. Ignition off, and then we can go through each of these wires and see if we can work out what on earth is going on. So, wiring diagram is the best place to start with any of this nonsense. So if we are looking at indicators actually is quite a complex circuit, because what we basically have here is we have the hazard relay, number 46, hazard warning unit. So that's the hazard relay. Hazard relay takes a brown wire direct from the battery, although it has actually got a fuse on it. Look at that. I'm not sure this car has a fuse on it, but it's got a fused link going to the hazard relay, and then that then goes through to 47, which is the hazard warning switch, the plunger. The idea is that when I pull that plunger out, and there is a video on the plunger and how it works, it will link the light green pink wire to the indicator circuits, which is 18, 19, yeah, indicators left hand and right hand. So basically it will energize, it will send power from the light green pink down to the green and white and green and red wire. So all of the indicators will come on, and because there's a flasher unit in the circuit, or there should be, then it will make them flash. That's how the hazard light circuit works. When you push that plunger in, then what happens is the light green pink circuit doesn't do anything at all, but the green feed, which is this one here, which comes from the back of fuse number 2, then energizes the back of the light plunger. So if we were to find the green wire and see if it's got voltage, we'd know whether we have a problem with the green wire or not. Let's do that. Oh, dear. Right, so on here there'll be a solid green wire, and there he is, that one there. Right, so ignition on. You can just sit down here, how about that? And I will go to the green wire and touch it. Ah, no volts. Well, that's good, isn't it? Are we sure that's the right one? Oh, no volts. If I go for light green pink, volts, 12.3 volts. Go for the green wire, no volts. So there's no point at this juncture going any further into the indicator circuit until we know that the indicator circuit has a live feed. So that green wire, as we've already, I'm going to leave the ignition on actually, that green wire, as we already know, came from the back of the fuse board. So let's wander round, and this is the nice thing again about Powerprobe, it's got a very long cable to the fuse board, and here we are, fuses. So we test the top of each fuse, 12.3, the bottom, 12.3, the top, 12.2, 12.1, 12.2, 12.2. So it looks like all of the fuses are working, but for some reason that green wire is not working. So what we then need to do, because bear in mind that we also have a problem with the reverse light switch. Now, if I just pop that down there so I don't tread on it. Reverse light switch, which I think is here. So if we look at 84 and 85, reversing lights, and 56 is the reversing light switch on top of the gearbox. Oh, it has a green feed. Where does it come from? Green. Oh, it comes from the back of fuse 2. I think that's where we need to be looking, isn't it? Back of fuse 2. 53, which is fuse 3, feeds 60, which is the windscreen wiper switch. So, have we got wipers working? Yeah, so it looks like we've got a problem with the back of fuse 2. So, with that in mind, what I then have to do is go around over here, get Torchy McTorchface on, and look at the green wires on the back of fuse 2. It's all a bit of a jumble down there, isn't it? So I might have to do this without you lot watching, because I can't do this one-handed. It is a little bit grubby under there, and what I'll probably do to make my life a little bit easier is undo the 2 fixings at the bottom of the glove box so I can take that out of the way. So I'm going to put a kettle on, and I'm going to have a think about the green wire that comes from the base of fuse number 2, because as we've seen already, seems to work. So what I might do actually is, if I put the left indicator on and use the Powerprobe on the bottom of fuse number 2 and see if the indicators come on. That would be a good test, wouldn't it? Right, so let us indicator left, no that's right, left, silly arse, and Mr. Powerprobe, roll. Monsieur le Powerprobe, and we go down here and we go to the bottom of fuse 2, which currently has nothing on it, and we energise it. Oh, there's a relay clicking somewhere. That's the heated rear window relay. Funny thing is, if I energise the top of the fuse, it doesn't click. Energise the bottom of the fuse, it does click. So there's something going wrong inside this fuse housing. So I'm not going to go any further because the only relay, well, there's two relays in that location. One of them is the starter solenoid, which is the one you can see down here. And the other relay, which is behind those two nuts, is for the heated rear window. Now, what's the relationship with that with fuse number 2? Got a bit of a rattle on the old gate today. Right, heated rear window. Heater motor. Heated rear screen. And the switch. So 66, 67. It's only because I've been through this diagram a million times that I know roughly where the stuff is. Here we are. So that comes... Oh, look. So the wire that goes down to do the reverse light switch splices. It's got a junction which then goes to the heated rear window circuit and relay. And there's the relay up there. It's dotted because it's optional. That's the relay that's clonking when I energise the bottom end of this fuse here, which is on that link there. Dot, 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 dot. And there's another dot, 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 dot here, which is 61, which is the old pressure gauge, which I don't think is connected. Right, well, we'll soon fix this. So really, now, I think I'm going to find that connector. It will be behind the dash somewhere, and see if I can get that working. But that's the basic diagnosis process. You'll start to work your way around a wiring diagram and chasing a fault back. So if you haven't got a supply, then the circuit's not going to work. If you haven't got an earth, then the circuit's not going to work. That's the other nice thing, by the way, this does. That if you find the earth point to a particular circuit, you can push the switch down and you can force an earth, and it will earth back through the cable. And if the circuit then works, you know you've got a bad earth. Very, very, very useful. If you've got a plastic bodied car, I cannot see how you can survive without one of these, honestly. Gives you a supply, protected supply, and an earth, and it tells you exactly what's going on. How much fucking more beautiful does a tool need to be? Right, onwards. Right, I found the connector. It is right there, look at that, beautiful. I don't like the way that the relay is clicking on when I energise the circuit, because the circuit is not energised, and for some reason the relay is clicking. So I'll just connect the relay. That's the relay, okay, goes directly into there. So I've just connected the green wire from that, so hopefully now that won't click when I energise it. What I then thought was, well, there's quite a jumble of cables down there. There must be an easier way of doing this. And of course there is. There's always an easier way of doing things. So we'll whiz around the other side. And I kind of dawned on me when I looked at this and I thought, oh my God, look at the state of that. But we'll come back to that in a second. If I get, let's put the battery light here. If I get the connector, which is there, and stand up here and watch. I think you can see. Can you see? I hope so. Stand up, you bastard. Right, okay, so we'll go to the light green and pink wire, 12.3 volts, and we'll go to the green wire, which takes a feed from the fuse box. No volts. Turn on the ignition, green wire, 12.1 volts. Oh, that's interesting. Right, so then, if because it then sends off on the green and yellow wire to here, if I energise this wire, do we get indicators? We do. Right, okay, now that's interesting, because obviously I have, you heard it clicking then, but because I've got the left indicator on, as soon as I energise that flasher unit, the circuit starts to work. So the next thing I'm going to do is, we know that the circuit is good because I've got 12 volts going to it. One thing I don't know yet is whether there's high resistance on this green circuit. So high resistance would mean that it reads 12 volts when there's no load against it, but as soon as you put load against it, it's screwed. So all I'll do is I'll get a small piece of jumper wire, which I will be able to find somewhere. Oh look, there's a bit there in the rubbish bin. That'll do. Crumbs, why is that in the rubbish bin? Nice bit of white and black wire, that. Right, okay, let me just chop the end off this. What's on the end of that? It was a nice bit of white wire. If I come round here, probably needs to do a bit more tripod-y work, don't I, Richard? Because I'm dashing around everywhere, the tripod gets in the bloody way. And I'm only really doing this to show you good folk what it is I'm doing. So that's all I need. That bit can go back in the rubbish. And then I bare the ends. Oh look, nice and shiny too. And all I'm going to do now is simulate the plunger being in the non-hazard position using this small jumper of wire here. So ignition off, and all I'm going to do is on the plug bridge the green and yellow. Is that going to go in there? Should do. And the green. So what we're basically doing then is we're putting a circuit straight through to here. And that is in. So we're not bypassing any fuses or any of the safety circuits, but by doing that we have isolated the hazard plunger switch, which is what then dictates whether the green and the pink, or whatever, sorry, the green and red, green and white wires get the circuit, or the green and yellow wire gets the circuit. So now if I turn the ignition on, oh, I've got indicators working. So we know the circuit's good. Right, let's go check the back lights now, which is what we were actually here to do. Oh look, one indicator, and two indicators. So we know the indicators are working. So with that in mind, clearly the problem is with this chappy, and it's not uncommon, I'll be honest. These are really quite a common failure point.